Mr. Agnew, 2 minutes.
You may or may not be a Trump fan, but at least President Trump does not allow politically correct thinking to muddy his vision when dealing with some of the world's worst tyrants. He understands how these people think, and he acts in what he believes to be the best interests of his country. The US believe that the deal is a bad one, which is not built upon long-term stability. Whether or not this is the case, we are now in the de facto situation where the Iran deal no longer exists. Iran is considering abandoning the terms set out in the deal as it sees no economic benefit from adhering to them, a very worrying development. Clearly, a solution needs to be found to the problem, either by saving the existing agreement or producing something new. The EU must forget about posturing power politics and allow the USA to get on with its own foreign policy. After all, you do not have your own EU army yet to enforce your ideas. The Iranian president has even suggested that the country now faces a war situation, and air defence drills have been taking place. This is obviously extremely concerning. It not only impacts trade and business, but of course on the humanitarian level as well. In 1998, the US and the EU had similar issues with sanctions, this time involving Cuba. An agreement was struck and the sanctions were lifted. Again, the EU must work alongside the US to solve this Iran problem. The United States are not the enemy, and they must not be treated as such. It would be wise to remember the many great sacrifices the American people made during the 20th century in order to promote freedom and peace in Europe. Any thoughts of potential EU trade war with the US are delusions of grandeur and nothing more.
For 1 minute, Mr. Colombier. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I wasn't sure, but just a minute. Mr. Agnew, I think, Mr. Agnew, Stuart, apologies for calling you by your first name, but Mr. BÜTIKOFER has a question. Will you accept? Just stay as you are there. Just turn on another microphone when you're. Would you accept the question firstly? Yes, you will. Mr. BÜTIKOFER.
Thank you, President. Mr. Agnew, would you concede that the Iranian leadership has so far stuck to the letter and the spirit of the agreement, so that it is not justified to blame them for deviating from that, as you did?
No, I'm not that naive. Thank you.
Quickest response to date, I think. Good night.